And hello. As usual, just sound check because I've got the little fan on. And yeah, hopefully all's good. We've got one viewer. So if you kindly just let me know if you can hear me and everything is good. Just getting a bit paranoid in my old age after that period where we had a bit of internet issues. Hello, Chad. He's the man. He's always here. Okay, so it's going to be another pretty short one. Between the videos, the kids, we had a great day today. Actually, went out to the beach. Kids had a lot of fun, so did we. It's all good. Hello, Farmer Grady. Perfect. Thank you, guys. 6 of you already. Good. So yeah, I wanted to cover. I've been a gentleman farmer for a few months now. Not my skill set, not anything I particularly enjoy doing, but I think a lot of us are preparing for whatever's coming in the future. We've had a pretty long run, 70 years without any major wars in Europe and the States or anything like that. But, the times are changing, as a boomer would say. Thank you, Rakir. So I just wanted to cover, and I want to, get a bit of feedback from you guys, like what you want to cover. But, the ideal situation in a zombie apocalypse scenario is that you've got your own food, your own power sources, your own water sources, and that sort of thing. Now, let's just say that ideally, like myself, you're a bit ahead of the curve. You've got yourself some decent land in a place that has at least a certain amount of usable water, or you've got access to relatively clean water or water that you can purify, whatever, stuff like that. Let's say that you're in a relatively sheltered part of the country that, is not a particularly strategic location that people want to use or get to. It's not particularly rich or wealthy in any specific thing, is not very highly populated. So the good stuff about all that is that if you're fairly off the beaten track, if you've got, a certain amount of food that you can grow yourself, if you've got and let's also assume that you've got a decent little community of people that are all think the same as you, which is what I'm starting to create here. They're all willing to defend, let's say, your area in an extreme situation. Let's say you have all of that. Let's say you've put yourself in that situation. What are the downsides? Because this is the thing no one understands. It doesn't matter what you set up yourself as. There's always going to be downsides. There's always going to be weak spots. There's always going to be danger zones. So if you're out of the way in the middle of nowhere, the downside for that is that you could just have bad luck. You get a zombie horde walking through your area. And by zombie horde, I mean, government officials, the army, a bunch of people from 3 towns over that are just run out of food, all that, right? So because you're a small band of brothers, that would be the scary part, the zombie wave. So you'd have to prepare for that. And how would you prepare for that? Well, you would need fortifications, you would need weapons, and you would need scouts. You would need something that tells you ahead of time there's a zombie wave coming. Because if you are aware of that from, further away, let's say, the zombie wave is coming and it's 20 kilometers away. Well, that's quite a long way. You can now start to do stuff to distract that zombie wave, to make it go somewhere else, to make it more difficult to come to where you are, or, again, and that starts to get into guerrilla warfare and all that sort of thing, which obviously there's no point in me trying to cover that over like the internet. Those of you who understand that sort of situation would know what to do. Those of you who don't, won't. And here's the other ugly thing. In an extreme situation like a war or something like that, people die. A lot of people die. But having said that, the chances of you staying alive, if you keep your head down, you keep your wits about you, you act smart, you play dirty, are pretty good. I have done this calculation since I was about 16. Just have one of those brains. And in all the history that I've studied, in all the worst case scenarios that I've studied, my opinion of it is that if you're a little bit prepared, if you're willing to do the things that most people are not willing to do and so on, your chances of surviving are probably above 50%. And that's, I'm saying a small group of adults, but that can even be a group of people that have small children and so on, if they're a bit prepared and they're willing to, go the extra mile and they've trained their kids to a certain extent. So those are the kind of scenarios that play out. Now, if you're in a big city, you don't have any land, you don't have any weapons, you're kind of screwed, especially if you've got small kids and so on. So, and again, keep in mind, the main point is community. If you're going to try and lone wolf it, that's okay. If you're 28 years old, you've got a brother, it's just the two of you, you're a sniper team that has been trained as a sniper team, and you're happy sleeping out rough in the middle of winter because you've got the equipment and the skills to do it. You might be all right. And guess what? After 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years of living rough, you're going to run out of ammo. You're going to run out of food. You're going to have to join a community. And if you've been lone wolfing for 2 or 3 years as a sniper team, it's going to be pretty tough for a community to go, yeah, come right in, So it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how clever you are. It doesn't matter how much equipment you've got. Attrition will eventually get you if you don't have a community. That's why I keep banging on about Catholicism. Because, look, it's kind of simple, right? It's basic logic. If you base your fundamental concepts of reality on flawed principles, what's going to happen? How do you think your consequences are going to play out once those false principles get tested, get stressed? And you're saying, but I'm a Baptist, and all my Baptist friends in the church, they're all cool Baptists. We really believe we're Baptists. That's how it goes. We're true Christians. It's not going to play out. There is no history of Baptists, getting murdered for their friends willingly. There is no history of Baptists strapping themselves full of C4 and taking out half a battalion because they want to save their own family. There is no history of that. There is, very small individual things. Like if you've seen, I think it's called Hacksaw Ridge, which is the story of a guy that was, I forget what denomination he was, but he saved a bunch of guys, and he refused to wear, hold a rifle and whatever, but he saved a bunch of guys, and he was some kind of Protestant. That's one guy, that's an individual. But you don't have the cohesion that you would have from having the same root fundamental religious belief. And what I'm saying, you're saying, the Spartans were like pagans and they did that. Yeah, you're not Spartans. You have no idea what the Spartans did. You have no idea what the Spartan community did in order to create those people. It's absolutely brutal, okay? And you can say, but the satraps of India or the Hindu of India. Okay, and are you a Hindu? Do you live in India? Or you can say, the Muslims are pretty cohesive. Yeah. Are you Muslim? Do you live in Saudi Arabia? So you can have flawed baseline principles that still mow over things that are weaker false baseline principles. You can have 10 football thugs that'll do better than, a bunch of good Catholic families just because the football thugs are more willing to do extreme violence, and 4 families with kids are not really geared to do that. Yeah, that can happen. But if you're looking big picture, a bunch of Anabaptists and a couple of evangelists and whatever, they're not going to create a new civilization from the collapse. They're not going to build anything. They might survive, they might do okay, but their great-grandkids, they won't know shit. They're not going to build anything worthwhile. And that is pretty much the thing. So, and you can say, but I really believe whatever. Look, again, you've got a few thousand years of historical precedent to look at. Yes, the Spartans held back, the Persians, 300 of them plus a few thousand Greeks, held back like whatever, 100,000, a million, 10,000, doesn't matter, a huge number of Persians. And they fought so hard and so distinctly that the Persians just kind of said, nah, these guys are crazy, it's not worth it. But the Spartans died out. The only empire, the longest running empire on earth was the Roman Empire. It lasted about 800 years. And guess what? Depending on where you want to draw the line, but most of that, several hundred years of that, were because it was Catholic. That is the longest empire that's ever lived in known human history. And what's the other longest organization that has survived the longest than any? The Catholic Church. Yes, it's somewhat collapsed at the moment. Yes, it looks like a kind of, bombed out shelter at the moment, but it still exists. And there is still continuity. I can hear the orthobros going, we're just as no, you're schismatics, you're cowards, you did not civilize the world, you did not, go out there and proselytize. That's why there was Catholic Christians getting crucified in Japan and not Russian Orthodox or Greek Orthodox, which is, closer to home. They were insular. They made a deal with the Muslims. And in fact, in 1450 something, 53, I think it was, they made another giant deal with the Muslims. So basically said, look, we'll take you guys over and we're going to let you live. But if you recognize the Pope in Rome, we're not going to have that. So that's what the orthobros are. They're schismatic cowards who asked for help from the Catholics and then betrayed them every single time. And then whined like little bitches when the fourth time the Catholics decided to sack Constantinople. I would have done it, number one. But there you go. So, the longest institution, human institution, but not really human because it's supernaturally protected, on earth, Catholic Church. So you've got precedent for this. So even if you're a secular, even if you're thinking, oh, well, I don't really care about Catholicism, I don't care about all this Christianity stuff, the reality is that the Catholic Church, the Catholic community, the Catholic westernization has literally created Western civilization. So, if you're going to align yourself with somebody or something, pick proper Catholics, pick proper Sedis. That's my little 10-minute rant on it. If you've got any specific questions, shoot. There's 11 of you. I'm not going to stay long, but okay, let's just quickly go through. Okay, sounds fine. Greeny Houdini says cheers, and Joe Gagan says hi everybody. Mr. Brightside says God bless you. Okay, I'm not sure Mr. Brightside is, but fine. All right, no questions. Good students, or maybe just bored out of your mind, I don't know. Okay. That was basically it. Oh, and the thing about the farming, don't for a second think that that's easy work. It really isn't. It's backbreaking work that is endless, and if you don't do it right, you don't eat at all. And even if you do it right, you might not eat at all anyway, because you could have bad luck, you could have bugs, you could have, wild pigs that eat your stuff, you could have all sorts of things. Which, by the way, last night, the wife picked up the binoculars, and she saw a whole troop, or I don't know what you call it, I don't know what the communal name for wild pigs is, but there was I counted 17. That's adults and little ones. One of them was massive. One of them was a really big pig, and they were quite far. You know, they were a few hundred meters away. But with my South African rifle, that would be a bunch of dead pigs. But you know, I felt like, nah, I'm not gonna blow away the mummies with their little piglets. You know, I wouldn't do that. You know, if I have to eat them, sure. But it was quite nice to see, actually. You know, so quite. You know, they were in a field that's like a few hundred meters away from our place. But that was pretty cool. Oh, and you know, a few weeks ago, also my wife saw a deer right in just outside her kitchen window. You know, just looking in. So it's quite nice. And they're a little bit of a problem. Of course, pigs are very destructive, but also deer, they like rub their horns against new shoots, new plants, then they can ruin plants that are quite useful. So, oh, and I told you guys last night, I think, about the field of mojitos that we have, you know, mint. It's just growing by itself. Rakir says, I really appreciate your comments on building communities. Would love to hear more of it. Ask questions, dude. I don't know what part of building a community you need to know more about. You know, again, my fundamental principle is look for the truth and stick with it. And that's what I've done. That's why I'm Catholic. But to give you an idea, this was from about 2 months ago. So I just want to read, I won't read all of the things because there's some stuff I don't necessarily want to discuss, whatever, in public, but here's like some of the things we did within like a couple of months of being here. And it was plumbing work, additional lights, pruned 114 trees to date, labeled 169 trees. The neighbor tore up the ground on the sides of the vineyard for us. The neighbor moved an old rickety piece of trash really for us using his tractor. Bought a lot of tools and used them: pruning shears, pruning saw, electric ones, these chainsaw, hedge trimmers, rototiller, circular saw, sharpener, grinder cutter, metal stone cutter, garden hose, a couple of them, shovels, rakes, hoe, pitchforks, 170 labels, which turned out to be crap. Sandblaster disaster. That was Sandblaster Gate. We won't talk about that ever again. We did a gardening bed, which actually my wife planted. I built it, but she planted it. We cast a small slab for the shed, built the shed, built another shed, repaired another shed, ordered a proper kitchen, cleared a few of the olive trees, because you got to clear the trees and then you got to rototill around them as well, and to kind of kill everything near them so that they can eat what, you know, the food doesn't get chewed up by grass and other bugs around them. Removed and burnt all the trash of the collapsed various dumps that were near the house. Removed, burnt what would be the old donkey shed. Took down all the glass doors of another ruined shed. Removed the crappy library in the lounge. I've since built a library, done the first coat of paint, need to do the second coat. Set up a strange, weird internet antenna thing that my wizard dude figured out. Refit all the waterproofing things around the house and other little areas. Bought a new fridge as well as the other necessaries for the nearby little sheds and stuff. Bunch of paperwork, bunch of more paperwork. Built a little cart for the kids. And there was also the streaming, more paperwork. Painted, we've now finished that. Painted the whole lounge ceiling, painted off the kitchen ceiling, painted the lounge walls, including the columns, etc. Finished the door frames, window frames, all that stuff. Did the bathroom, painted the bathroom. Unfortunately with the wrong paint, so I'm going to have to redo the shower part of that. Neatened out a whole bunch of plant drawings. We didn't finish pruning all the trees. Picked some fruits, more paperwork, more licensing paperwork and all the other crap, more paperwork, insurance paperwork, and oh yeah, then we actually did the furniture for the main bedroom, furniture for one of the smaller bedroom, set up the study, painted the study, cleaned out the whole house a few times thanks to the sandblast incident, and that was just like I said in the first couple of months. And there's a bunch of stuff, these are just like major ticket items that would take a few days each to do, but that's what I mean, that this doesn't even include most of the yard work, the clearing of the thorn bushes, the clearing of the vine trees, the chopping up of the wood for the wood stove, the cleaning out of the wood stove. It's just endless. So even if you do get yourself a little farmhouse somewhere, you're gonna need people, okay? Because you can be as fit as you like, you get injured, and you're like one family, like husband and wife with a couple of kids, you're done. You need people around you. Ideally, people that have also bought land around you or with you, together with you. And again, you got to have the right people, because you don't want the wrong person there. You don't want the guy that when the shit hits the fan, slits your throat at night, rapes your wife, and sells your kids, because it's just convenient. So you got to know your neighbor, sort of thing. So sound of boars. Oh yeah, you could hear the boars actually. Like my wife could. My hearing is not that great, but I shot too many guns when I was little, and I didn't have ear protection. 20, 30 years later, you pay for it. 40 years later, 45 years later. Rakitanko says, how long is the shit hits the fan chaos last? Are we talking 5 years, 10 years? When do you see that happening? 2, 3 years? A lot of people think like, oh, the apocalypse is coming. This is what people think is the worst case scenario. 2, 3 years from now, 6 months from now, all the people that took the fake vax just drop dead like zombies. Boom, millions of people dead, rotting bodies everywhere, infrastructure gone, logistics gone, no more food in the supermarket, people just start eating each other in the street and wrestling over like a tin of tuna to the death. That scenario happens, I'm laughing. Honest to God, that scenario happens, that doesn't worry me at all. Like zero worry. If that scenario happens, I'll be able to like take my son up to the roof. He's still a little dude. I'll go like, son, look at that. As far as your eye can see, all the way to the ocean, all the way to the mountains and beyond. It's all yours. You don't even have to fight for it. Dad'll have it done by the time you're old enough to like run it. Proper zombie apocalypse scenario does not worry me. Does it worry most people? Yeah, sure. But that's not what I think is going to happen. I don't think that's the worst case scenario at all. Here's the worst case scenario. Over the next few months and years, all you pussyfied people that are going to take the vax, that are going to put the mask, that are not going to riot and fight against whatever vaccine passports and all that shit, eventually you will be hemmed in and hemmed in and hemmed in. And then people will start dying off over the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. And then they'll blame it on whatever, the people that didn't get vaxxed. And then you'll have more masks. And then you'll have more militarized police that arrests and goes after, the lone wolf guys that are like not complying. And over time, they will introduce this social justice, so basic income for all the slaves, the mask wearers, the vax takers and all that. And they will need it because, otherwise they'll starve. And then you'll get chipped, and then you'll have your vaccine every 6 months, otherwise you won't be able to buy food. And that's what the generic population of the planet is going to go for. And it will be slowly rolled out over a period of 10 years, 15 years. and your kids will be born into it and or grow up into it. That's the worst case scenario. Because in order to fight that shit, you would need people to be completely proactive, get together, organize themselves, and go, nah, we're not doing this. And by the way, anybody that tries to fucking force that shit on us, you're going to have to kill a whole bunch of us, and some of you are going to die. That's kind of the scenario that you have to envision. That takes not just community, that takes octagonal brass ball community. So, are you busy building that? Don't know, don't think so. Don't think most of you are. So, that's what you kind of got to work towards. You got to pick your spot, pick a little village if you can, become the mayor. Make sure that all your friends are like, second in charge, third in charge, fourth in charge. That's the smart play, So, or, if you're a millionaire, buy a whole shit bunch of land and get your friends there. Build a little community. If you can build a little town where there isn't one, great. But most people can't afford to do that. So go where there is a little town and own it. Become, like I said, the mayor. Become the chief of staff. Become the chief of police. Become the sheriff. Become those guys. That's my thinking. Farmer Grady, hello, says, I've got to harvest my cats now before elk eat and smash them all. Your oats. Sorry, I misread that. I was thinking, what? Elk eat cats? The apocalypse is here sooner than I thought. The mutants are here already. So you gotta harvest your oats now before elk eat and smash them all. Gotta fence that field. Looking forward to your pig hunting adventures. Yeah, like I said, actually the funny thing, I was talking about it with my wife, I'm like, I'm getting soft in my old age. I was thinking, I don't really want to shoot the mama pigs, But, if they gave me a license for fucking idiots, I wouldn't have any compunction about that, So, yeah. Ha! I have a surprise for them, Greenie Houdini. For who? Greenie, really, you gotta stop hitting the bottle when you're on my channel, just complete sentences and shit like that, Aaron Brown says, so we make sure to set up our local community militias as basic city-states. Precisely. Yes. Catholic ones. So that you'll be able to trade with the Kurganate. Greenie Houdini says, every state has a militia. You can join most that are already infiltrated, but there's still the Southern Republic Army. Aaron. Yeah, I'm not American. I don't know what this state of play is out there. I believe there's feds all over the place that are infiltrated. If I was in America, here's my hypothetical Yankee scenario. Of course, I wouldn't be a Yankee because I would definitely be a Southerner. But anyway, my ideal scenario for the American apocalypse would be, you guys can buy a shitload of guns. You can buy all the guns you want. I would have like a bunch of 50 calibers with like proper scopes, spotter scopes. I would have fucking, you can't imagine how many guns I would have if I lived in the States. And then I would move to buttfuck redneck Alabama mountains or Appalachia, incestuous redneck country. And I would go there and I would make sure that every fucking redneck that lived there, I took them one bottle, one, not two, not three, not methamphetamines, and I go, hi, I'm the new redneck. I know this is your place. I'm just saying, I want to be on your side, but I have a few little rules, and that is, all the fucking junkies that live out here or whatever, I don't give a shit what they do. I don't care what they smoke. I don't care what they junk themselves up with. But if one of those motherfuckers crosses into my picketed land, you're never even going to find the bones. That's it. And second, if any goddamn outsiders, now I know I'm an outsider and I know I'll always be an outsider, But any one of those other outsiders come here, I'm on your side, and I'm going to keep shooting and reloading right next to you. And in that event, you will be allowed to man the trenches in my particular fucking compound. And if the shit should hit the fan, I hope that you'll extend the same courtesy to me and my family to man your trenches in case I'm overrun. You know, that would be pretty much my scenario if I was living in the States. I would be, again, in a place that is buttfuck nowhere, no one's interested in it, nobody wants to go there, and there's a bunch of crazy rednecks or red Indians that don't want anyone to fuck with them. That's where I'd be in the States. But, you know, in the States it's bad news, because if you're going to go up against the federal government, they got tanks, they got fucking drones, you know, they're going to like bombard your ass from the sky. You won't even know what hit you. So that's the downside. Just remember, like I said, yeah, if you're in the States, yeah, you and your buddies can have a bunch of like, almost like tank stopping weapons. But if the government really wants to fucking get upset with you, you're done, you know. So that's, like I said, it doesn't matter where you are. You're going to have good sides, bad sides. There's an element of fate, luck, destiny, divine providence, you know, so. But, yeah, you know, I don't, yeah, that's town, neighborhood level. That's it, yeah. If you can't take over the whole town, make sure you can take over your block. Make sure you can take over your little area of the city you're in. If you can't get out of it, you know, cities are going to be like festering hellholes. Come on. By now you've watched enough zombie apocalypse movies to know you do not want to be in the city when they all get infected, you know? So, that has already happened in the several times. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Douglas. Whether the rednecks have held off the federal government or vice versa. I know both have happened. The Grady guys, the cattle grazing land thing, and a bunch of feds showed up, but because of the no more Wacos, there was a bunch of cowboys with guns that said, yeah, we're here. And the feds eventually got back in their cars and like pissed off. In the USA, yeah, I don't know what you mean has happened. That people got droned or that the rednecks won? I don't know. I like it, Greeny Houdini. Says, shit hits the fan. I'm gonna be fishing from the tops of cypresses in the bay or sleeping in my treehouse. Yeah, Greeny has got it. If you're a Louisiana swamp kind of redneck, you're safe. You're pretty good. Especially if you're really literally out in the swamp on some little fucking island. Jordan says, don't forget to douse your perimeters with holy water. Indeed. I'll eat catfish sushi. Catfish is great. Smoked, grilled. I don't think I've ever had catfish sushi, but hey, wouldn't bother me too much. Adam says, right, zombie apocalypse movies are pretty much thinly veiled metaphors for 3D world mobs sprinting at you. Yeah. Well, I'm not worried about the third world mob sprinting at me. I really am not. Apart from the fact that I'm in Europe, so, you know, that's going to be a pretty thin mob. By the time it gets to where I'm at, it will have been thinned out very quickly. But, you know, even if I was in Africa, the third world mob really doesn't scare me. Because, again, pros and cons. If I was in Africa, you know, again, my dad's out there, and he's got a shitload of weapons. And pretty much a fortress for a house. So even though he's in a kind of a city, people would go somewhere else before they come to him. They'd have to like have literally eaten out every other house before they get to his. And he's got a couple of ways out of there. And if we were there, we'd be out literally in the middle of the sticks in a fucking swamp. And again, short of the military coming out there to take us out, and they would have a fucking task, let me tell you. If it was just, whatever, me, my brother, and my dad out in the African areas that he owns out there, Yeah, anything short of a fucking platoon with tanks and air reconnaissance wouldn't worry us. So again, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just the way my family is wired, but proper apocalypse shit it's the fan scenario, that's not the concern. You know, that's not really a thing for us. So and Douglas says, sorry, the feds have killed people in compounds, men, women, children. Yeah, we know that, you know. I was watching Waco as it happened on TV. I know all about Ruby Ridge and all that. But there's the other side, which doesn't get publicized as much, which has also happened in the States, you know. Greeny says, I have bags packed and ready and barrels of gasoline. I can survive. But eventually the gasoline runs out, my girl. So, you know, I hope you got a big, strong dude to go and get you some more when that happens. Unseen11 says, Australian here. We will become a puppet state of the Chinese in such a scenario. Yeah, you will. But that's probably after you become a gay gimp to your own government. Because, unfortunately, the only nation that is possibly more cocked than Australia, possibly New Zealand and maybe Canada, but Canada's got a lot of vast open spaces and quite a lot of guns. Australians are really, it's the pits, it's the worst. Last place I'd want to be on Earth, you know, barring, I don't know, fucking capital of India or some shithole like that, it would be Canada. I mean, sorry, it would be Australia. Australia is like fucking hell. I know a guy that lived, I used to train with him. He lives up there. It's not good. Something or other. Would it be retarded to move to Africa and have a farm? Pretty much, yeah. Pretty retarded, especially which part of Africa. If you were gonna move to Africa, I would strongly suggest at the northern area of Botswana. Anything else would be pretty much suicide, especially if you're white. But if you're a black African American with a shitload of money, you'll still get eaten, but you won't get eaten last, but you know, you'll get eaten like 10th last, something like that. Or first, because that's Africa. And Greeny says, I have stuff hidden in the boonies already, some stuff is buried. I have enough gas to get the fuck out when it starts. Yeah, but the problem is survival long term. You know, again, the zombie apocalypse doesn't worry me for a very simple reason. In the zombie apocalypse, what would happen? All the logistics would break down, which means that you'd have to have enough physical manpower or, you know, motorized manpower for as long as the gas lasts, right? To rebuild civilization after the collapse. And that requires manpower, that requires people. Who gets the people? Who gets to have the people working for him or with him or alongside him? Who gets those guys? Who gets to rebuild civilization? Here's a nasty, ugly truth. The most violent motherfucker in the area, he gets the people. Unless some other really violent motherfucker kills him first. Because guess who runs things when society completely breaks down? The guys who have the most weapons, the most guns, and the ability and willingness to use them. That's who wins. That's who becomes your leader. That's who becomes your government. Right? So, that's how it works. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just read history. Read what happened in Yugoslavia. You know, as soon as the shit hits the fan, you know, your wife is sick, whatever, you see a cop and you're like, oh, I need some help. And the cop just takes out his gun and shoots you, takes your clothes, rapes your wife, sells your kids. You know why? Because he's got a gun. He's already got a gun. Because he's a cop. That's how it works. And you have no idea how quickly that shit happens. Ricky Tanko says, how do you think Switzerland will fare? Yeah, Switzerland is a pretty unique case because most adults have got weapons. It's got cantons. It's got a very ancient culture of neutrality and fuck you, leave us alone. And there's also a little bit of Germanic influence there, so they're pretty disciplined, super disciplined, really, compared to the rest of Europe. So I think there are certain areas of Switzerland, that certain little villages, that'll do very well. I just don't like mountains. Don't like the cold. I don't particularly like human beings in general, but the Swiss, yeah, they're pretty fucking boring. So that's why I'm not in Switzerland. Otherwise, pretty good choice for most people, I think. You know, of course, if you're not in Zurich or something like that. You know. But Greenie says the Yellow Stars won't win. It depends how you define winning, but the fact that they're still around after all this shit they've caused, you know, and continue to cause, I don't know. You gotta hand it to them. They're kind of pretty tough to to deal with, kind of like roaches. Daddy Nichols says, "Hey Kurgan, bug out to Kansas because nobody wants to take us over." I don't know the United States very well, but yeah, Kansas sounds like right up there with India. And Greenie says, "And I'm ready to take the motherfuckers out already. They need out of power. Their bloodlines need extinct. Our military are their brainwashed murderers. They shadow ban me when I speak on Little Star." Yeah, and again, you know, this here, what we're doing here, this is not real life. This is Minecraft. Real life is out there when you switch this off and you gotta deal with the world, you know, so don't get fooled. You're just a guy on a screen. Right? Look after yourselves. Get your little community together. But it is getting late and I've gone way longer than I thought I wanted to go. So, as I told you guys last time, I hope to have some really cool news for you in the next week or two. And I hope that the digital Kurganet starts off with a bang, because I'm pretty excited about it. It's looking pretty good. Got to do another 5 or 6 videos before we're ready, and I've got to upload them. The IT dude is doing a bunch of work as well. So thank you all for being here. 26 of you. We got the downvoter. The downvoter clearly lives in a big city and doesn't know how to survive. He's doomed. Have an amazing weekend with your fam. Thank you, Greenie. Well, we've had a really good day at the beach and stuff, and yeah, it's going to be a good weekend. It is good. It's starting. I wouldn't say that we're anywhere near where I want to be in terms of like the work that still needs to be done, but you know, it's getting almost manageable. The house is still a mess, but slowly, once I get my books out, there's a whole bunch of boxes of crap that you know, that they'll be got rid of, and that whole big back room hopefully will open up. So thank you, Green. Same to you. Have a good weekend, all of you. God bless you all, little immortals, and thank you for always being so loyal. You know, it's a nice feeling. I know we're only like a digital community, but we're a good one. And some of you, by the way, from this have become physical community. So you know, keep it going. There are some of you in the chat right now that may well end up being physically in the Kurganet from what you guys have been telling me. So that's very good. I'm very impressed with the quality that we have. You know, it only took like about a year of like gamma masquerades, but now we have a really clean, good chat of devoted immortals. Very proud of that. Anyway, thank you all. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you soon, I hope. Good night.